In the early days of rock and roll, nobody expected the quiet, unassuming Elvis Presley to become a Hollywood heartthrob overnight. Yet here he was, standing nervously in a Paramount Pictures studio, facing a screen test with an actor, all to see if he could cut it in the big screen. Elvis had just come from performing a few scenes with an actor to test his acting skills, worried about his stammer. But Hal Wallis, a prominent producer, reassured him it wouldn't be a problem. It would just make him appear more natural, Wallis said. So Elvis tried to immerse himself in the character, acting as naturally as he could. He thought he did all right, but little did he know, there was more to come. Hal Wallis had another surprise in store for him, a singing test. They played Elvis a song, Blue Suede Shoes, and asked him to mime as if he were playing guitar. At first, Elvis didn't connect the dots. He thought they were just testing his acting. But it was clear they were really interested in his singing. Days later, Elvis was shocked to learn he wasn't going to star in The Rainmaker, as he thought. Instead, he was loaned out to 20th Century Fox for another movie. He felt like a rental car passed between studios, which made him uncomfortable. The Colonel, his manager, wasn't happy about Elvis talking to the press either. "It's best you don't talk to newspapers, Elvis," he warned. "They'll only twist what you say." But avoiding the media was tough, especially when articles about him popped up in major magazines like Time, Newsweek, and Life. People accused him of being vulgar and linked his music to bad behavior. Elvis fired back at a journalist who asked about music contributing to juvenile delinquency. "If people are going to be juvenile delinquents, they'll do it regardless of the music," he said. "They'll be delinquents listening to Mother Goose rhymes." Elvis felt his music was healthy and fun, something anyone could enjoy without needing drugs. He was proud of who he was and what he did. But soon, a new challenge arose, the infamous Elvis the Pelvis label. Elvis hated it. To him, it was a stupid term invented by adults to ridicule him. After some performances and a brief tour, Elvis and his band Scotty, Bill, and DJ headed back to RCA's Nashville studios for a recording session. Things took a scary turn when their chartered plane got lost and ran out of fuel. They made an emergency landing, shaken but safe, yet the tension didn't end there. When they arrived at the studio, Elvis was unhappy with the setup. The pilot who nearly crashed them was flying the plane again, and RCA had only booked one of the Jordanaires, Gordon Stoker, to back him up. Elvis needed the full quartet for the harmonies he wanted. He was angry that RCA was cutting corners to save money, despite his recent chart-topping success. The session itself was unfulfilling. The material wasn't great, and RCA gave them only 3 hours to record. Elvis knew they could have made a better record with more time. Still, the single "I Want You, I Need You, I Love You" became a hit, along with "My Baby Left Me." But Elvis only sang these songs a couple of times on TV, preferring to move on once they were recorded. Despite the frustrations, this session taught Elvis a valuable lesson. He decided to take charge in the studio from then on. He wouldn't return to Nashville for recording for 2 years, determined to control his artistic process. One quiet moment stood out amid the chaos. After a show in Houston, Elvis and the band visited a club where blues legend Lowell Fulson was playing. Elvis, a big fan, was thrilled when Fulson invited them on stage to jam. Watching Scotty and Fulson play together while Elvis sang was a rare, joyful moment. 4 years later, Elvis would pay the favor back by recording "Reconsider Baby." In those early days, Elvis often toured with hillbilly acts. But the Colonel had a new plan to keep the focus on Elvis. He started sending the band out with a comedian to entertain the audience while Elvis prepared to go on stage. It was cheaper and helped manage the crowd. However, it wasn't without its issues. The Colonel, who planned everything meticulously, didn't fully understand the fans who bought Elvis's records. When he booked Elvis for a long gig at the New Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas, even Bill Black had doubts. "We'll give them heartburn over their steaks," he joked, but the concern was real. Elvis's journey was far from smooth, but it was just beginning. Each challenge only made him stronger and more determined to control his destiny. Elvis found himself in a strange situation. For the first time in his young career, he felt like he was failing every night on stage. He and his band tried hard, but the crowd, mostly older folks, didn't react like he hoped. They sat at tables, not screaming and jumping like the younger fans he was used to. Elvis was puzzled and tried to make them laugh with jokes, but even those didn't work. The Colonel, his manager, wasn't happy either. He told Elvis that making jokes about farming and old sayings wasn't a good idea for an audience that didn't get it. Elvis didn't realize his jokes were seen as off-color. But the truth was, the audience loved the jokes, even if the singing and songs weren't hitting the mark. Elvis had more free time in Las Vegas than he expected. He didn't gamble and wasn't interested in the showgirls, though he did enjoy riding the bumper cars late into the night. He loved the city for its playful vibe. Still, he knew he needed to change his act. A turning point came when he saw Freddie and the Bellboys perform Hound Dog at the Sands Hotel. The song, originally a woman's song about a man being unreliable, was changed by Freddie. It became a catchy tune that made people want to dance. Elvis loved it and decided to use it as a showstopper in his own shows. When Elvis started touring again, Hound Dog became his go-to song. Wherever he went, the crowd loved it, but this success came with criticism. Newspapers began attacking him, calling him names like morally degenerate and obscene. They said he was bad influence on young people. Elvis was hurt by these attacks, especially when even his mother was unhappy. One day, a reporter followed Elvis to a restaurant and confronted him about the bad reviews. Elvis snapped and defended himself, explaining that the music he played wasn't new but had been around for a long time, sung by black musicians. He said he just brought more energy to it. This honest talk got printed in newspapers across the country. Despite the backlash, Elvis stood by his music. He told a reporter that he wasn't trying to be nasty, just honest. He said rock and roll came from the heart, not just for show. Elvis believed his passion and intensity were what made his music special, even if some people didn't understand. Back in the studio, Elvis and his band worked hard to perfect Hound Dog. It took 31 tries, but finally they got it right. Elvis was in control now, insisting on specific sounds and takes until he was satisfied. This dedication showed how serious he was about his craft, despite the criticism. Through it all, Elvis remained true to himself and his music. He knew that what mattered most was the emotion and effort he put into every performance. His belief in rock and roll as a genuine, heartfelt expression would eventually change how people saw his music. But for now, he kept performing, driven by his passion and the love of his fans, even if they were few and far between at the time. Elvis Presley, the young man from Memphis, became a huge star almost overnight. People talk about how if Elvis had never been, another singer might have taken his place. Let's imagine a movie made instead called The Reno Brothers. This movie would have been a simple story about two brothers, and it would not have had the amazing songs that made Elvis famous. In the summer of 1956, people in Hollywood heard about this opportunity. They thought of taking Elvis to play a smaller role in the movie. It was a quick, cheap film that was about to start making. To fit Elvis into the story, they had to change the script. They also wrote 4 new songs for the film. The tunes were old songs everyone knew, like Ora Lee, which was from the Civil War times. A man named Ken Darby, who helped make music for the movie, wrote words to Ora Lee and called it Love Me Tender. This song became super popular. Elvis didn't write these songs himself. He even said he didn't write a single song in his life. That's not true, though. His team took credit for his songs sometimes, which isn't fair. But it was how the music business worked back then. Elvis recorded these songs in a studio in Los Angeles with his band. They didn't need his band from Memphis because the studio musicians were good enough. Elvis liked one song, We're Gonna Move, because it reminded him of old church songs. But only Love Me Tender felt like it could be a big hit. The story of Elvis and these songs shows how the music industry works. Sometimes people get credit for things they didn't really create. Elvis was aware of this and didn't like it. He said many times that being a singer was all a big trick. But his music company still got money from these songs just like they do today. As Elvis's fame grew, so did his lifestyle. His dad, Vernon, loved the new life, with fancy cars parked outside their home. But Elvis's mom, Gladys, just looked amazed, unable to fully believe the changes around them. Eventually, Elvis returned to performing, traveling to Florida and facing a judge who tried to stop him from singing without a proper contract. But after that, Elvis focused on other things like water skiing and horse riding. He visited family and took his parents on trips. Then came a big change. Elvis headed to Hollywood to become an actor in movies. One of these movies was Love Me Tender. In this film, he played a young brother named Clint Reno. The movie wasn't originally meant to be about music. But Elvis's involvement meant it would have songs, including Love Me Tender, which became a huge hit. The songs for Love Me Tender were recorded before filming started. Elvis's band from Memphis wasn't needed since the filmmakers thought local musicians were more suitable for the hillbilly vibe they wanted. Despite this, Elvis tried his best with the songs, enjoying some of them more than others. Elvis's journey shows how a simple boy from the South could change the world of music and movies. Even though not everything he did was honest, his impact on culture was huge. His story continues to fascinate people, showing how one person can change the world with talent and a little bit of luck.